Coming up on this episode of Everybody's Trying, will creatine really make us all smarter, stronger? Can we overdose on creatine? Is it bad for our kidneys? What should we take and how much of it should we be taking? We are all about to find out. But that's not all. I am going to tell you why I cannot stand creatine gummies. And Patrick's got a little bit of a lure around the squishy creatine muscle. And it's really all about where does science end and marketing begin? Dr. Sprouse will join us to clarify it all. This is Everybody's Trying Creatine.
Everybody's trying.
Everybody's trying, but this conversation is not medical advice. Ask your doctor if this podcast is right for you. Side effects may include more informed decision-making and a better life.
Everybody's trying.
Do not listen to Everybody's Trying if you are allergic to Everybody's Trying.
Well, what's up, everybody? Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about creatine. It's a hot subject. Creatine is being pushed on me. I mean, I have never seen so many of the female influencers talking about it, pushing it more on me than drugs were pushed on me in college. That is for sure. And I'm very confused as to why it's taken such a front runner. Like it was protein 6 or 7 months ago, and now it's like, man, if you're not on creatine, I mean, the amount of powders I'm trying to take in a day and hit is insane.
The big thing to remember here is that we've known about this for a while. We can keep doing it. When it gets less popular on TikTok and people are now talking about whatever the new thing is, that doesn't mean that these old things go away. It's the same way that I think sleep maxing got really popular for a little bit. I've seen the phrase fiber maxing, and dietitians, finally, we're taking fiber seriously. Yeah, we need 40 grams a day, but that's not a sexy or fun thing. Creatine kind of toes that line, right? Like it's kind of cool. It's like, oh, it'll keep you smart. It'll help if you didn't sleep well. Like, it's going to help me be stronger and perform better.
Obviously, wellness and wellness culture and wellness products are a multi-billion, trillion-dollar industry. Like it's growing and everybody's trying to get a piece of it. So, I think back to I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and Saturday Night Live did an awesome skit about everybody carrying around their big Yeti water bottles. Did you ever see that one? It was like Kristen Wiig, and she had one like the size of her body. Mm-hmm. And it was like the Salt Lake City, Utah moms, and they all had their hydro jugs. Let me set you up a little bit. I want to watch a clip. This comes to us from Renwell MD, and she is a hospitalist physician turned Babylon and real health whistleblower. So let's take a listen to what she has to say about creatine.
I love seeing what the algorithm feeds other people.
I know. This is going to be a real look into my algorithm right now.
What I would like to talk about is creatine and how it's killing you. I know I've done this before. I know I've triggered a bunch of people before. But here's what I want to say, because I'm going to make it really simple for you. Anytime you bypass metabolism, so you have glycine and arginine, which go through metabolism and come out creatine, and you don't even know, right? What is the other one? You don't even know because Google didn't tell you. But I'll tell you, it's circosine. So now you're flooding the product side with creatine, right? Creatine happens to be the only thing that downregulates the enzyme responsible for the metabolism of glycine and arginine. And I did see a lot of kidney patients. I put people on dialysis, big healthy gym people with their creatine. Everyone, ChatGPT, is she being real? And ChatGPT says, well, yeah, but you just give it 6 to 8 weeks and then the kidneys recover and AGAT normals go to normal. But you have to stop the creatine for 6 to 8 weeks in order to get normal AGAT levels. If you don't, and you keep taking the creatine, that shit is progressive. Progressive death, progressive ammonia buildup, progressive urea cycle sabotage, progressive ornithine depletion.
And Patrick, go ahead.
I love the caption here, that this is a spiritual war and that it is bigger than creatine.
I agree. It really, truly is.
This feels like something that happens a lot with very passionate wellness influencers, is that you get on the mechanism of action or something that you see as this cascade of effects, and then that gives you your argument for or against what the product is. But a lot of the things she talked about, even with you stop taking it, and then a lot of these levels return to normal, that's something that's well supported. So there usually is a best practice that maybe we should cycle off of anything that we're taking. Diversity is always great. Moderation is helpful. But it's also a stretch to then be oh, I've put people on dialysis with their creatine. Well, that doesn't mean that that's what caused it. You're not giving anything else, you're just throwing this anecdotal thing out of there. And it's unfortunate because this just feels like fear mongering to get people to not do something that's also hopping on a popular wellness trend, right? Like creatine's in the zeitgeist right now. That's why we're talking about it. It's been around forever. It's funny that it's more popular now, but it's been well proven to be safe and actually effective, unlike many other supplements and ergogenic aids. So it's unfortunate this is the kind of stuff that gets out there that then takes somebody who's maybe curious about it, and it kind of puts them in that paralysis by analysis sort of a thing where it's like, oh, this is going to kill me, which is a fun tagline that got us to sit and watch the video and talk about it a little bit.
I know. My first initial reaction is she starts with, I'm going to make this really simple for you. And then I didn't follow a single word she said.
Yeah.
She went very deep and heavy into it. And to your point, like, I know I'm not the expert here on this, but it doesn't seem like it's that serious in terms of what she's talking about. But I think the other thing that is hilarious, and you kind of put a little point to it, is that creatine's come to the forefront. Like, it's the new supplement of choice. And I'm in this phase of life where I'm in my 40s. There's a lot of chatter for perimenopause and menopausal women, what we should be doing to like help ourselves. And so really, I want to get down to, why is everybody trying it? And is it something that we should be adding to our routine? And at what point do we need to like filter out the noise?
In that clip, she talks about, I hate things that skip metabolism, right? Which isn't necessarily a horrible way to look at products you're putting in your body, right? You want to set your body up with the ability to have precursors or use the materials that you take in. So like if you're eating steak and you're getting a lot of these things, you'll process it, you'll digest that creatine in a way, but you're not going to get the dose that maybe is necessary for people who are in a high intensity sport. So it's suggestive to say that creatine is likely not going to kill you in the way that she maybe leads out with, especially kind of with some of those stretches of kidney failure and these different things. But it's good to see that there's lots of different people who are misinterpreting what these substances do. More on my end of the spectrum in my algorithm, there was a golfer, Ben Griffin, that got caught in an interview talking about how he actually overdosed on creatine ahead of a round one time. I think we have the clip of his interview, actually.
I take creatine as a supplement, and this morning I didn't take it until I basically teed off on one, and I was at the end of my batch, and I had this like basically a snowball of creatine. So it'd been in my bucket for probably like a month, and I like broke it up and put it in my water bottle, whatever. Like, I'm all good. Like, I've taken creatine on the golf course before, it's fine. But I started taking it after my second shot, and I accidentally swallowed like one of the big rocks kind of that was in my water bottle. And I've never overdosed on creatine before, but I think I did in the moment because I didn't really drink any water after that. I basically just inhaled like a snowball. And so I started getting like super shaky, and I've never felt like this before, and I literally felt like I had tremors.
Yikes.
And I 4-putted one, and then on two I like was freaking out and didn't know what to do, and I like hit it so far out of bounds. Pretty crazy story. I don't think I'll be taking too much creatine in the future. I will take it, but not in the amount that I probably did on the golf course, which wasn't probably a healthy amount.
Tough day for him out there. You can take a large dose of creatine and not, overdose and have tremors the way that he was talking about. Sure, you take a big chunk, your stomach might hurt.
Yeah.
You can get nauseous, but then also you can really convince yourself, especially in a sport like golf, that like, oh no,
yeah,
what I did there has pushed me over the edge, or like that's got me unfocused. But it's interesting to hear that. I believe he landed a deal with a creatine gummy company after that. So he's capitalized on the somewhat, I guess, viral in my world interview.
But he's decided that a gummy is going to be the better supplementation there.
Well, I mean, like that's
interesting.
It's a good deal. It's easy to go with. You land a new product. I think he probably just got hit with a bit of a gastric upset since he had a snowball, as he said. But
yeah,
it can definitely clump. You don't want to store. Creatine's pretty stable. Like I think I was reading that up to like 140 degrees even. It's stable in a powder form. We'll talk more about liquid forms, best practices. He brought up a lot of good things about timing, liquid, how you mix it. So we'll get more into that later in the show.
Give us a good, just kind of simple explanation of what creatine is doing in the body.
There's different energy systems in the body, right? So oxidative phosphorylation within the body. So we're doing this kind of long, slow distance sort of a thing, and how we fuel that system, right? Your body also has energy systems for immediate response sort of an energy. So that explosive, really like the first 20 seconds of movement, your strength training, quick movements, that sort of a thing. And that's going to come from like the phosphocreatine in the body and something called adenosine diphosphate, and how we create ATP, so adenosine triphosphate, which is just energy. So the idea is that if you flood the body with creatine, you're going to increase the phosphocreatine stores in the muscle, which is going to then help you have more energy available for those quick, explosive, short efforts.
I'm a little dumbfounded that he went from that experience with the powder and then was like, let me try a gummy. I'm, as you will learn in this episode, so anti-gummy. It's not even funny. But if it's going to help you get it in, it's probably better than nothing. But that's a little shocking to me, to be quite honest.
No, on the other end of the spectrum, you've got like golfers like Rory McIlroy who have been seen saying that they take 20 grams of creatine or these huge doses versus been out there. So it's, it's both sides of the spectrum with everybody out on the course.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. Well, maybe we get into a little bit of like dosing now, because I think that's interesting. There's a lot around, how much you should take and the timing in which you should take it. But I'd love to hear the comments on Rory. Well, let's hear from Rory. Let's see what he says, Mr. Masters.
Take 10 grams before I work out, and then I take 10 grams at some other point during the day.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so like,
just to make sure you're always.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's such a safe, it's one of the most studied supplements ever.
These two guys are two of the top 3 golfers in the world. But if you are a golfer at any level, what I'm about to show you next might be one of the cooler things you'll see this year. This study right here measured the effects of creatine on how far participants could drive a golf ball. They had group number 1 take 10 grams of creatine per day, and they had group number 2 take 10 grams of a placebo instead. And after 4 weeks, this is what the difference in performance looked like. The creatine group increased the distance of their longest drive by an average of 13.6 yards, while the placebo group basically didn't see any meaningful change. Similar story for their average drive. The creatine group saw an increase of 19.6 yards, while the placebo group saw an increase of just 2.8. So if you are a golfer at any level and you're looking to drive the ball further, one of the easiest things you can do is just a simple 4 to 5 grams of creatine per day.
I agree with what Rory was saying there. He's talking about how it's safe, well-researched, and if he mentions how he splits the dose, which is really important. One thing to be wary of is the gentleman in the clip that was talking about the study is from a company called Burst Creatine. So they're trying to sell a product and sell you on those things. So it could be a stretch. Again, I've not looked at that research directly. However, you can extrapolate the fact that creatine is helpful for strength and power sports, of which, though it pains a lot of people to say, golf 100% is. I mean, if you look at Rory, he's a well-built guy. He's very strong, does a lot of strength training, and also uses a lot of the creatine phosphate system in a golf swing. That's a quick, explosive movement. So it's very primed to be responsive to supplementing with something like creatine.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot. 20 yards, is that what they said? That's insane. I mean, I think I agree with the benefits of creatine, because I do think there's a lot to creatine that is incredibly positive and so well researched, which is, that's what makes it really easy to talk about.
Yeah.
But back to kind of the beginning here, it is definitely taken the forefront. I feel like it was protein. Now it's creatine. Patrick, why do you think that is? What made this big switch?
The bros have been on this for a while. And our bro scientists, everybody knows these things kind of standard, but there's been, I think, new research that's come out. I think that's really pushed it back into popularity with okay, what are these doses coming from? Forever, it was you take a 10-gram loading phase for 5 days and then you jump down to a 5-gram creatine dose.
Yeah.
Pretty standard. It's not really an argument of whether creatine works for people who are responders. There are non-responders. It's more of how do I make sure that this is still popular, or advertise my new gummy or my new lean creatine or whatever it might be. If
Sean Johnson pushes Create on me one more time, I'm going to lose it. The Create gummy, which I'm sure is a great gummy. I'm not trying to dog it, but as I said earlier, I'm so anti-gummy. It's ridiculous. It's really pissing me off because I just, I get it, but I'm also this is nothing new. And then it's presented to me as something that's bright and shiny and packaged for women. And that pisses me off to my core. And I want to be like, just because of that, I'm never going to take that gummy. I'm going to find the rawest cube of creatine and shave it myself to eat. I don't know. Like, I don't know why that makes me so mad.
Were you forced to do the gummy bears as a kid, the vitamin gummies?
No,
I can't even remember what they were called. Like, is this something deeper we need to dig into? Like,
Maybe.
is this?
You know what it is? I don't love when things are packaged for women. I think there's a vulnerability there. I think that our health and wellness isn't as researched and understood as it is for men. I think that's not new information that I'm giving anybody. But I also think that because sometimes it is harder for women to achieve some of the physical goals that men can achieve, especially in like maybe their 30s, that they start not looking at the basics of what they need to do and adding in all this stuff. And then it's packaged as like, you know, something yummy and gummy and cute and pretty that you can do. And like a gummy just adds sugar and gunk, and it's not actually a perfect dose. Like it's not an easier system to actually put into your body. I think there's much better things out there. So I think that also gets to me a little bit when I'm looking at all this trends and the media coming at me, and they're coming at me very hard and heavy right now. Like nothing will make you feel better than having a proper diet that accompanies the activities that you do in life. I think we're always on the same page with that. And sometimes that message is missed, and it makes me feel like they're saying like these supplements will be the savior, and they're just not going to be your savior. You've got to really have your foundation set. And when you don't have a strong foundation, everything else is just kind of like you're cherry picking out of the wind. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, or it's not really going to be as effective. But the way that things are marketed make me feel like they skip over that as if to say, this can replace something that is irreplaceable in terms of your health and wellness.
The thought process has been with creatine monohydrate, which is the most studied and like the most effective version. Unfortunately for companies, it's also the cheapest, which is great for consumers, not so great for the bottom line. But the easiest way to take creatine is just a 5-gram scoop daily. That's usually what's been researched and what's been shown to be effective at helping a wide variety of bodies, shapes, and sizes reach sufficient creatine stores that it is going to have the ergogenic effect we're aiming for.
Interesting. So would you say that like there's a time of day that makes a difference, and or a delivery of this, like taking it with your hot coffee versus a glass of water?
For me, the best argument is when you're going to be most consistent taking it, right? If in the morning is when you're going to take creatine consistently, that's when you should take it, because consistency is more important than the best time, right? There's lots of products like your pre-workout supplements, post-workout shakes that are advertised as like, oh, hey, this has got creatine in it. You can take it before your workout, and that's the optimal time to take it. If you're only doing 3 workouts a week, that means you're only getting 3 doses of it, so you're not actually getting the full benefit of creatine. Those products also tend to be hard. It's harder for them to keep a consistent dose. Like to get 5 scoops is a difficult task for supplement makers. So I think its best practices are going to be to take advantage of it in a scoop on its own. It dissolves best in warm water. So like the original thing was like, oh, I absolve it in warm water, drink that down. It can have a chalky flavor, so some people don't like that. There are people who enjoy mixing it in their coffee. There's then the argument that, oh, if you're taking it along caffeine, that's going to blunt the effects, which there is some suggestion that may have a slight impact on like fine percentage points. However, if you consistently drink coffee every day and consistently take your creatine every day, that's going to completely outweigh the 1% to 2% that you may lose if you mix it with a caffeine dose. And if you're having a regular coffee, it's maybe like 80 to 100 milligrams, it's probably not going to have that impact.
We're talking about 5 grams a day. Is it worth trying to like titrate up in that case? Like when would you and why would you?
A lot of the benefit is going to be, if you're titrating up, is splitting the doses and seeing how you feel with these things. Something that absolutely can happen with creatine is just general like digestive discomfort, like gastric distress, like kind of it's a different thing. And if you think, oh, I'm going to take 20 grams because I heard on a podcast that I should take 20 grams, and you throw that in a water bottle and chug it down on an empty stomach and then drink a coffee, and you're like, oh no, my stomach's upset. Well, that's not really like a crazy situation that your stomach would be upset, right? You just took 20 grams of a powder. There's other like indications where, hey, like the sleep study with suppressed sleep, if I need to perform the next day, it could be an opportunity that if I know I'm going to be jet lagged, I take an extra 5 to 10 gram dose in the evening. But that's going to be more situational versus thinking I need to be doing this large dose every single day.
That's interesting.
Absolutely. The downside is that it's not a situation where, oh, there was a study that said that cognition didn't decline if I just take 20 grams of creatine. So I'm going to ignore having quality sleep and I'm just going to take this huge dose of creatine every day. And look at that. I'm still optimized and operating at a functionally high level and able to get out there and drive shareholder value for an extra 5 hours a day. That's not what we want to like encourage people to do.
I meant to ask this earlier about bloating because I know in my experience with creatine, which was much earlier on, and it was definitely in the point where I was working with some athletes that were doing more like, bodybuilding shows and bikini shows. And, you talk a lot about water retention within that. Mm-hmm. Is there a point where you're taking creatine and you feel like it levels out? Or is that something that you're constantly going to be aware of throughout your journey with it?
On the bloating front and this sort of a thing, a lot of it's more anecdotal and person to person. The weight gain is totally real, but it's 1 to 2 pounds maybe, and it's a good weight gain, right? Like it's within the muscle cell. It's going to help with your performance. It's not something that we need to shy away from. I always remember oh, you've got those soft creatine muscles. That's not the case in any means. Like it's in the muscle anyway. We're just trying to get more in there so that I'm able to do extra curls.
Yeah. Well, in my honest opinion, I think a juicy muscle is much sexier than a dehydrated one. I know that the striations are what everybody goes for, but something about something plump just looks so much healthier to me outwardly. And I'd always talk about that with some of my clients, but that doesn't win you the gold medal a lot of the time. So
it doesn't help you really at the Olympia. The Arnold will not take that into account.
The Arnold Classic, man, I love that event.
Yeah.
Oh, I went one year. It was really fun to watch. Old Arnold himself. We did it at the Santa Monica Pier. Anyway, I digress. Well, what else? I think there's the only other thing that I saw in my insane feed, which obviously the first video is from my feed. And if you continue to listen to this podcast, you're going to know that exactly what's happening in my social media based on what I'm bringing to the table. But some of the other things that I saw, I don't know if this is something you heard, was around like acne and skin breakouts. Have you heard a lot about that with creatine?
I've not heard a lot of skin conditions and that sort of thing associated with creatine. There may be other things at play, encouraging these side effects. I'm not as aware. Maybe we'll toss that one to Kevin later.
I typically take the Thorne creatine, which you can find on the feed. Love it. It's so small, the dose. I don't know if people really understand how little a 5 gram dose of creatine is. And so for me, I'd rather just hock it and follow it with a shot of water, then mix it. I mean, just get it over with.
I've used the feed formulas creatine as well because again, it's simple. It's 5 grams. You know exactly what you're getting. But the Thorne creatine is great. It also, for all supplements that we talk about that we maybe suggest or kind of give you the options for, you want to look for things like NSF certified for sport, GMP good manufacturing practices, like informed consent, all of these things that show that they're going above and beyond to be sure that it's been tested. You're getting the actual product that you ordered. The purity's there, and that's something I'm excited to have Dr. Sprouse come in and talk about this and kind of give us a little bit more insight, see if we've said anything slightly incorrectly, and give us the final verdict on creatine.
I enjoyed listening to the conversation on creatine, and I look forward to digging into it with you. I'll say this is one that, and Patrick kind of alluded to this, it's not new. It's something that maybe has gained legs recently, but I've been working as a sports medicine doctor for 15 or 16 years. And before that, I was in exercise science. I worked as a personal trainer way back when, and this was always a thing. Like even in high school, creatine was a thing. And so it's interesting to me to see it come around and gain such popularity and some of the interesting claims around it, both good and bad. So I look forward to digging into those. The one clip that really caught my attention was the hospitalist, the physician. I don't remember her name. I mean, man, if she's seeing all this like kidney failure, she needs to report it because there's no reports in the literature of this. There's one report of a 17-year-old who had acute kidney injury that the only thing they could trace it to was creatine. They weren't real sure that that was it, but it's one report. He didn't go on dialysis, totally recovered. And so if she's seeing this, one, she needs to report it. Two, she might want to look and see why all her patients are having such problems. I mean, maybe there's something else she's doing. But it was I think it was a take that was kind of either unfair or disingenuous because the preponderance of evidence otherwise says that it's not that dangerous.
I'm going to go with preponderance is going to be my word of the day. Thank you for that. The second question I have is, do you think that was like in any way related to maybe massive doses? Like, is that maybe something that could play a role there?
Everything that we ingest, the dose matters, right? Whether it's creatine, vitamin C, water, whatever. So the dose probably matters. In that one case report that I referenced, they don't actually list, at least what I read, didn't list the dose. It just said high dose loading protocol, which is usually 20 grams a day. And that's pretty typical. It's a decent amount of creatine, but there's, if one person has had a bad outcome and millions haven't, that's still better than like Tylenol, right? So nothing is going to be without its occasional case of problematic outcome. I'm not saying that, but it looks like it's remarkably safe on balance. And so if you look at the amount of creatine that most people get in their diet, so if you're just eating, a normal protein rich, but not like, you're not somebody going for crazy amounts of protein, you're just kind of eating a normal diet. And the reason I say that, it's that creatine is in the diet in animal products. And so if you're eating just like a normal protein rich, omnivorous diet, you're probably getting anywhere from 2 to 5 grams a day just through diet. Your body makes some as well. Your body will endogenously produce creatine in the kidneys and liver, and you'll make anywhere from 1 to 2 grams a day. So that's 7-ish grams on the high side that's circulating in a given day. If you're adding 5 to that, which is kind of the typical dose, a 5-gram scoop or handful of gummies, we can get into that too. I know, I don't mean to be triggering,
Kevin.
but that's a significant but not massive increase.
No.
If you add 20 grams a day, it's a pretty big increase over what your body would see normally. But again, for decades, this has been studied and tested, but it just doesn't hold water as being a really dangerous intervention.
On the dosing, it's interesting you gave kind of like the natural amounts that are throughout the diet. I always came up and we kind of talked about the 5-gram dose and then some of the large doses for sleep. Do you think there's rationale for some of these people that are pushing for like more dosing based on like body weight? So like for me, taking like 10 grams since I'm closer to like 90 kilograms as far as weight versus somebody else just sticking with like a stable 5-gram dose?
I think there is rationale, and some of the newer studies are really pointing toward some added benefit with bigger doses, especially in bigger people. I don't think that the benefit from 5 to 10 grams a day is double, like it's double intake, but not double benefit. It's with most of these things, there's a curve, and most of the benefit you get is just being consistent with a moderate amount of intake. And then you can kind of add on top of that, but you get less and less benefit each time you go up. So there was the clip of Rory and his creatine intake. Was his 20 a day? Was he doing 10 and 10? Is that what I remember?
I think so, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's probably not getting 4 times the benefit that somebody who's taking 5 grams is, but he's a big guy and it probably makes sense for him to take a bit more. It also matters what your burn rate is. So creatine, Patrick did a good job of talking about how creatine is used as a phosphate donor to convert ADP to ATP. And that step is kind of a rate limiting step in metabolism when you're doing things that are kind of quick, sprinting, swinging a golf club, lifting weights, things like that. And so in someone who's doing that a whole lot, they probably have more of a need or a way that they could use that extra creatine. In somebody who's sedentary, maybe not. If they're sedentary and have a pretty complete diet, maybe a smaller person, they might be getting plenty from their diet. So as is often the case with looking at supplements, more is not always better, and not everyone needs it, right? You got to figure out, if you need it, what are you trying to accomplish? And in order for you to accomplish that, you as an individual, what might your dosing regimen look like?
I went to a Target yesterday and was walking about what is now, I guess, just a wellness aisle. And the amount of different creatine products that have come out, whether it's like just a general creatine mix, there's creatine cereal. Man cereal is a thing that's available now. I like to stick with just simple dosed creatine because I know what I'm getting. But it's amazing to see how the marketing of it's popular, let's put it in everything, and how you really maybe don't need to be getting creatine chips with your protein chips with your, high magnesium hydration mix.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe a bit of a shameless plug here. I helped formulate this product that you can add to a shake. And there's nothing special about it. Like, we didn't come up with anything new. We just put all the stuff that you might typically want to have daily in a shake into one sachet so you can dump it in along with your protein. And creatine's one of the things. It's called Foundation. If anybody's looking for it, again, shameless plug, I get it. They're a great sponsor. But the point is, it's kind of the thing that I would want, that Matt at the feed would want. We were having this conversation of, what do you want to take daily but frequently forget to take? So it's got creatine, it's got collagen, it's got a few things that you just want to dump in there. None of it's overly sexy. It's just consistency. And so I think if that creatine gummy or cereal gets you to ingest it daily because you've got some good reason to do that, and you've assessed that it would be a good thing for you, fine, go for it. But if you can just do a scoop in water or in a hydration mix or whatever, that's just as good. There's nothing special about the chips with creatine. I didn't even know that was a thing. That sounds awful.
It sounds disgusting.
Creatine actually doesn't taste great. Like, if you just put it in water, it's not all. I mean, it's not. You can do it, but it's got a little bite to it. So I don't know that I'd want it in something that I really want to enjoy.
It is a little bit bitter. It's strange to me. Like, I get the understanding behind like the protein craze and the amount of protein that is recommended and the marketing around that. And that's why these things like protein cereals and protein chips exist. I guess I think what makes me a little bit frustrated with the external marketing with the creatine strips is it's not a huge quantity in its entirety. And I would think for someone like myself, it would probably max out around the 5 to 10 grams at most, which are 2 very tiny scoops of powder that I could, if I wanted to rough it down, just powder and water. But it is a little bit concerning to me that they put these things in multiple different food sources as if you need to consume that much more food just to get the small amount that has really been recommended here.
Yeah, it's not that much, but there is downside to taking too much. And typically it's not danger, it's discomfort. And so there's 2 things that kind of come up when people take creatine, and they're very dose related. It has to do with fluid retention. So if you've got a whole lot of creatine, if you take 20 grams at once and it sits in the gut, your body needs to dilute that in some way to process it. So water rushes into the gut and you get a lot of GI discomfort and bloating in the GI tract, right? And that's, one, not very effective in terms of the use of this supplement, but it's also just really uncomfortable and it can last for some hours. So that's often why it's recommended that even if you're taking 20 grams a day, you break it up into like 5-gram doses. 10's probably the max, and there's might be a good argument that that's hard for most people to digest anyway. So you may be taking it in, but not getting the full benefit. So smaller doses is going to be better tolerated by the gut. But then there's the phenomenon of water retention, which is a different type of water retention than you might think about typically. Most people, when they say they're retaining water, they feel like they're puffy, right? And so you can even push on your skin and you see a little indentation. And that is when fluid is being held kind of between the cells. We call it third spacing. It's not in the vessels, it's not in the cells, it's kind of around the cells and just kind of boggy. That's not what happens with creatine. So with creatine, to get it into the muscle where it lives, it's got to kind of ride on a water molecule. It hydrates the muscle as it goes in. And so what'll happen is you can have a muscle that, say, weighs 5 pounds in your body. And if you start taking creatine, you've still got 5 pounds of muscle tissue, but now that the creatine's moving in to support that muscle tissue, it's pulling water in with it, and maybe that muscle belly now weighs 5.5 pounds. I'm making up numbers. But you've put on weight, but it's actually weight inside the muscle cell. The muscle is healthier. It's better functioning. You're not holding water like in a dysfunctional place, and you're certainly not putting on fat. So it's lean tissue that you're increasing and improving, but you do see it on the scale. But most people don't feel sluggish because of it. They just don't like the number on the scale or the way the pants are fitting.
Yeah. When I was training most of my clients, I would not let them step on the scale without me present because there's a lot of interpretation that happens even from just general strength training when you start out and your muscles having some swelling to them, to the products that you're taking, to the food that you're eating. So that's always been a huge point of contention, especially with my female clients, because I think we're still working our way outside of what the scale says and how things feel, but that's really interesting. Would you, Kevin, say that there are a lot of secondary benefits outside of what we've been talking about, like with sleep and brain health, that are related to creatine that you've seen?
I think the main secondary benefits that we see both in the literature and that I've had patients report are around cognitive functioning or cognitive health and sleep. Now, these are newer areas of research. So when we talk about the benefits of creatine for exercise and explosive activities and strength, like, we know that's happening. I don't think that's really debatable at this point. Decades of research has been reproduced over and over and over. When we look at cognitive health and sleep health, it's kind of newer. And so one of the hallmarks of good research is that you can reproduce it, and that, they find it in this lab and they find it in that lab, and then they do the same study over on that side of the country, and it just keeps showing up, and then you can kind of hang your hat on it. And we're not really there with these yet, but it's interesting to take something that we know is safe, we know is beneficial in this other way for performance, and say, oh, look, we might be getting additional benefits. The idea is that it's beneficial for muscle tissue because you kind of churn through this precious resource that allows for energy production, and that becomes a rate limiting step, right? But the other tissue that is really metabolically demanding is brain tissue. And so it's constantly turning over, ATP, and you need to turn it from ADP back to ATP, like we were talking about, to be able to support the processes in the brain. So the theory was, if you could provide creatine as a phosphate donor to brain tissue, that you might see improved function. And it does look like that's probably the case. I don't think it's as widely applicable. I don't think everyone has that limit, so to speak, or that is their primary limit to cognition. But I think there are cases in which it could be a useful adjunct or support to cognitive health. And then from a sleep standpoint, you all talked about it. There was a study that showed a hefty dose of creatine the day after sleep deprivation can kind of close the gap between a normally slept day and how you function and that sleep deprivation. I think that's interesting. I think that's yet to be proven, so to speak, but it's a nice theoretical start down that path. I wouldn't use that as rationale for why you can try to sleep less. I think that's more of a safety net you keep in your back pocket, that if for some reason you've had one or two terrible nights of sleep and you have a really important cognitive task, a presentation or something you have to do, an exam at school, that's a good time to throw everything at it and hope. But I don't think it's a get out of jail free pass.
Yeah, I like that distinction so that people aren't thinking I can just take creatine and sleep poorly as like an additive sort of a thing. But it's nice that it's such a safe supplement that's well proven that maybe has these other potential benefits. So it's helpful to just kind of say, oh, if I'm already taking it for muscle, for performance as an ergogenic aid, maybe there are some other benefits as well.
I would be cautious anytime we start talking about all the things that we could use as an aid, whether that's cognitive or for muscular health, fitness performance. When we look at some of the bad outcomes, maybe like this doctor was talking about in the clip, a lot of times if people are throwing everything at it, creatine is part of that stack, right?
Yeah.
So if it's a bodybuilder who's doing everything they can to get bigger and get ripped, creatine's going to be in there. They may have a bad outcome from the 10 other things they're taking too, or the dehydration, where they're just really trying to sweat down body weight. There's all kinds of things that are going in as confounders. And so when we look at some of the cases of things gone bad, it's really hard to draw that line to the creatine. But I think the nice take-home point is that, hey, doing creatine alongside a bunch of other stuff for cognitive health, muscle health, whatever, you could still end up in a bad place if it's the other stuff, right? And maybe that's just sleep deprivation. Creatine wasn't a magic fix for those people doing 8 or 10 different supplements, injectables, legal, illegal stuff. Like they can still end up problematic. And if you decide not to sleep for 6 weeks and just take creatine, like that's going to go poorly too. Yeah. And it's not the creatine's fault.
Kevin, would you have advice for somebody who might be a good candidate to start creatine, like where to start and how to then add more if needed, or when the markers appear to add more?
What you can add all at once if you want is good sleep, good diet, regular exercise. Those things can be layered really easily. And if you haven't tick those boxes. Don't reach for creatine to try to fill the hole. Do the foundational stuff well. That doesn't mean A+, but like at least get to where you're kind of a B-, or solid B before you start playing with the other stuff. And if you do decide to add creatine, I think you start small. Even if you're a big person, so 3 grams, 5 grams a day, do that for a few weeks, see how you feel. We know it will take time before you feel benefit. I'm not talking about that. It used to be the case that everyone was recommended to start with like 5 to 7 days of 20 grams a day loading dose, because that's how the early studies were done, and then they would drop down to either 5 or 10 grams. It's been shown that that's not necessary. But what you give up when you don't do the loading dose is your ramp to get to a concentration that's beneficial is flatter, right? So it takes more time to get there, which is perfectly fine. So consistency is what matters. So start at 3 to 5 grams a day, ride that for a while, see how you feel, see if you notice a benefit, but more importantly, see if you notice side effects or detriment. And then if you want to increase it, going up to 10 is pretty reasonable for most people, but probably unnecessary. Like you're getting most of the benefit in that 5 grams. Mm-hmm. And the really important caveat, we talked about how safe this is, but that's for an otherwise healthy, active person. There are medication interactions with supplements that are important. There are certain kidney conditions that if you have kidneys that are already damaged or struggling because of something, you may not want to add creatine. Like not everybody should be on creatine, far from it. And you hear people say, "Oh, talk to your doctor before you start this. Understand what it is that you're putting in your body and how it interacts with your conditions and the other things you're taking." It's not a cover your ass kind of recommendation. It's a really smart thing to do. Mm-hmm. But if you're one of those people who can reasonably take creatine, then start slow, take it over time. Consistency is important. We're not trying to get all the benefits right here in the first week. It's adding something to a consistent regimen.
And just tacking onto that, finding a way that works well for you, as opposed to thinking it has to be the optimal timing of your dosage. Like if it's taking it in the morning, Kevin, I know you like to take it with coffee, which some people would argue that, the caffeine's ruining all of the dose of creatine, but taking it consistently over time is going to outweigh any fractional benefit of, I take it pre-workout, post-workout, unless that's the only time that you'll take it.
I don't take it in my coffee anymore because I got to be kind of a coffee snob and I didn't like the way it tasted.
Yeah, it ruins the coffee.
Fair.
Yeah. But that said, I totally agree with what you're saying. Find what makes it consistent. There's a little bit of benefit to taking it maybe after a workout when the muscles are kind of primed and ready to take it up. But that doesn't mean you should skip it if you don't have a workout that day or if you want to take it in the morning. Like these are all really marginal gains on top of marginal gains. So consistency is the most important thing for sure.
Every episode we've had a theme, which is get your foundation really set. And that foundation is more simple than we think. And that is get good sleep, get good nutrition, get out and move your body. That was really good information. So thank you so much, Dr. Kevin Sprouse. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you so much. You can catch us on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. And we're excited for the next episode of Everybody's Trying.
Everybody's trying.
Everybody's Trying is for informational and entertainment purposes only and does not provide medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your healthcare provider regarding questions about your health.